Erev Tov, everyone. It is Tuesday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the Maimon Beit Knesset. Therefore, it must be the Rabbis Discuss with Rabbi Ancel and Rabbi A. Good to have you all here. See what we got in the chat room. We have Donald. We have Simon. And we have Marshall, and we have a few people watching in the background, and we have more to come as we go on. Okay, so, last night we were back with Zeta's Story Corner. Good to be back. Good to be able to get back into the stories and stuff like that. Really enjoyed last night's session. Hope you did too. If you didn't get to see it, then watch the archive. So, okay. So Richard has joined us, and let us bring in Rabbi Ancel. And there, you got your voice back now.
Good evening.
There we go. Okay, so we've been... we did have a little break there, but we've been hitting some pretty heavy subjects in our discussions here, and I thought for tonight, let's do something a little different, something a little bit lighter, something that we're all fairly aware of, things that happen, all the time, and maybe we, don't exactly know what all the rules are to deal with it. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So, Rabbi Ancel, anything you want to hit on before we start on this?
No, let's start on it. But I will make some comments regarding the subject we're going to talk tonight, comparing it to the jurisprudence in American law, common law,
okay,
as far as and Jewish law, because they're close, but not close.
Okay, so let's start out like we usually do. I'm going to pose the question, and then we'll actually start getting into what the din has come up with the answer. Mm-hmm. So the question is actually, we should put these answers are actually written by Rabbi Yosef Fleischman. I should make sure that I give him credit for it, because we're always supposed to give credit to the author. True?
Sure.
True. Okay. So here's the question. I was walking one evening in a park in a Froom section of the city and noticed a high school girl's school bag laying on a bench. I looked around but didn't see anyone who might be the owner. I was in a predicament. My thoughts were that perhaps it's best to leave it there, since probably the owner will realize in the morning that the school bag is missing, and then will then return to look for her school bag. If I took the school bag, she would never know who found it, and I might not be able to discover who lost it. However, perhaps I should take it since there are all kinds of people who roam the park, and perhaps by the morning someone will just take the school bag. Perhaps there were identifying features which would enable me to discover who lost it. To take the school bag and leave a big sign wasn't feasible because I didn't have the paper and tape and didn't live close to the park. What should I have done? So let's give people a minute or so to kind of ponder that and maybe put their answer in, and then we'll actually get into the answer. But
Actually, the last part where it said, "Should I should I leave a sign?"
Where he said that he didn't
where
have.
the person lives, that is dangerous stuff because
Well, in this day and age, yes.
yeah, if they know where you live, they can come and rob the whole house, not just the bag. So, but it's this is why we discuss things that happen, the way the Rishonim were thinking about this 300 or 3,000 years ago, but how it affects us today. What is the law, common law, regarding this, and what is Jewish law? Because there are differences.
Yeah, there actually are some significant differences between the two.
Yes, they're very significant.
Yeah. So well, let's see. Let's see. Let's see. David said. Donald says today I would call the police. Okay. Well, that's an answer. So, okay. So let's go ahead and let's get into the Din's answer. So you want to take this?
Yeah, but just make it a little bit bigger.
A little bit bigger? How much bigger do you want it? It's almost. How's that?
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
That's it. Okay.
I got a 26-inch screen, and the paper is 26 inches wide on the screen, and Rabbi Ancel is going, can you make it bigger?
I got a 14-inch screen, so it makes a big difference. Okay, the underlying spirit of your question is correct. While the Torah prohibits us from ignoring a lost object and also commands us to actively attempt to return it, one must know the recommended procedures in every case. The principle is that the Torah requires one who discovers a lost object to act in a manner that will maximize the probability that the lost object will be reunited with its owner. Fine. A practical application of this principle, which pertains to this situation as well. In the following ruling of modern poskim, including Rav Elisheva Zatzal, the opinion of most Rishonim is that if one notices a lost object that has identifying features, like in Hebrew it's called simanim, in a place which is not totally safe, one must take the object and put up a notice. However, contemporary poskim rule that if the object is not valuable, one, go ahead, lift it up.
Right here.
Where am I?
Right.
That one rules that should leave it there even if the place is not safe, since nowadays it is much more likely that the owner will retrieve his lost object if it is left there. Questionable. Thus,
Yes.
for example, if one notices a child lost yarmulke in the playground, one should leave it there, even though there are identifying features nowadays. The likelihood that the yarmulke will return to its rightful owner is much greater if it's left there where it was. So that if one should do, unless he knows or can determine by himself to whom the yarmulke belongs. Well, nowadays yarmulkes are by the millions,
Yeah.
nobody would bother. In your situation, there's almost certainly are identifying features, since there are personal effects inside the school bag. However, perhaps the contents are not valuable and there's nothing inside the school bag that will enable you to identify its owner, in which case it is better to leave the bag where it is. On the other hand, perhaps there's a name and maybe a telephone number someplace inside the bag, in which case you should take the bag, the school bag, and call up its owner, since that is certainly the best thing to do. Therefore, in order to decide what to do, it is critical to determine if there is. Can you lift up?
Oh, I'm sorry. There is anything.
If there's anything that will enable you to contact its owner.
Okay, so in this case, right now we're saying he basically just looking at the bag, sees nothing on it that's really an identifying mark, such as a name or a kind of a tag or anything that would be unique on the bag. Okay, so now he has to make a determination that he's either going to just leave it there, or he's going to look into the bag to see if there's anything in there, say like a cell phone or a wallet or identification or something like that would allow him to do that. So now it becomes an issue because it depends on how you go about doing it, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
But because it's not your property, do you have permission to go inside the bag?
Well, then we also have, what is the Torah expect us to do, and what do the Rishonim expect us to do?
Okay. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But, okay, let me ask the group, what would you do? Would you open the bag?
Yeah, let's see. Marshall says, look for ID in the bag.
Correct.
And Donald says, perhaps bombs could be in the bag. Okay, well, now Marshall says, look for ID in the bag. Well, that's not a bad idea, but how you'll go about looking for it in the bag could become an issue.
Yes.
So
it's easy to go inside the bag. Let's forget bombs. It could be, but the likelihood. That's the problem with lost items, because before we opened up and the discussion, I was telling you regarding the jurisprudence regarding common law and American common law and Jewish law.
Right.
So according to Jewish law, when one happens to stumble across a lost piece of property, one must intervene to retrieve it. According to the common law, one need not to.
Right. It's strictly voluntary under common law.
Secondly, Jewish law imposes ethical duties as part of its legal mandate,
right.
A practice that common law does not follow.
Right.
So.
Okay, so let's see what else we got going on. You say, Marshall says, just look to see if ID is apparent. Okay. And let's see. Yeah. Donald seems to be going to worst case scenario. First it was a bomb, and now he's talking about, well, maybe the bag's full of drugs and stuff like that. So, okay.
Here's another scenario. Okay. What if it was a wallet?
Yes.
Okay. There has to be identifying something in the wallet.
Well, you would, yeah.
Okay.
It's reasonable to assume in a wallet
Yeah. Should you open the wallet?
Yeah.
Because don't forget, the wallet has IDs. There is some money. There's a dispute.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You understand? The guy say, "Oh, thank you for giving me my wallet back, but I had $1,000 and it's missing." So
Yeah.
that'll create another problem.
Yeah.
So
Simcha has joined us, so yeah. I mean, well, and we could go in the other direction too. Okay,
yeah,
let's say that you're walking in the park and you see a nice coat just laying on the bench, got left there by somebody, and well, sometimes you'll find identification in them, and sometimes you're not going to find it. So what's the extent? How far does does Jewish law extend that you have to go, and what happens there? So why don't we continue on with this?
okay.
Because this really does. I mean, as simple as it seems to be, it's not that simple.
It is not. So it would seem that there is no problem to pick up the school bag. Search its contents and check indeed if you find telephone number, name, address. However, one has to be careful because the Gemara says that the one who picks up a lost object has the legal status of a shomer,
Yeah.
a guardian, over that particular object. So there is a dispute in the Gemara over this. If he has the responsibility of a paid watchman, a shomer,
Yeah.
or a socher, or a volunteer watchman, a shomer shinom, but certainly one who finds a lost object must watch over it.
Yeah, because there are it's a difference between if you are a paid watchman and if you are an unpaid watchman. Responsibilities are different between the two. And what that person is basically obligated to is also different.
So let's see what Feinstein says. Raise it up. So based on the Gemara by Rav Moshe Feinstein, he points out a common mistake that stems from people's lack of knowledge of this law. People often pick up a lost object, and instead of posting a notice that they found the lost objects, they pin the lost object itself to the bulletin board.
Yeah, I've seen that done a lot.
I've seen that before.
Yep.
He states that this is forbidden since the finder is obligated to watch over the lost object on behalf of its owner and not to leave it attached to the bulletin board, which is not safe. Is not a safe place. He's right. Second, since doing so constitutes negligence on the part of the finder, according to both opinions on the status of the finder, he is liable to the owner for the entire value of the lost objects if anyone besides the true owner takes the objects.
Yeah. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful.
The ruling is also why modern poskim, like some Auerbach cited, a rule that one may not turn over a lost object to the police.
Okay, so there you go, Donald. There's your answer.
I knew the answer, but I just was waiting. So you may not overturn the lost object to the police if the police do not adhere to total rule concerning how the finder must watch over the lost object, and also they must only return the object to the one who proves he is the true owner by describing the identifying features.
Now we know that it used to be. I don't know if it still is or not. That in the United States, that basically, if you were to find, let's say, a money clip, okay, and there was whatever amount there was. Let's say there was $180 in there. You would turn that over to the police. The police would say, well, they have to they hang on to it for a specific period of time, and you have to put out a notice and stuff like that. If nobody claims it according to the law, then you get to keep it, but not according to
Yes.
Torah law.
No. But here's a twist to this. A man finds a wallet. So what does he do? He picks up the wallet and he goes to the rabbi. He didn't know what to do, so he went to the rabbi and he gave the wallet to the rabbi. The rabbi opens up the wallet and he sees an identifying card. He calls the owner of it who owned the wallet and he says, "This gentleman found your wallet." So the owner takes possession of the wallet. He looks inside and he says, "But Rabbi, there is $300 missing. I had $600. So what do you think the rabbi ruled?
Well, I would think that because the rabbi would not have the status of a paid watchman, he would be a voluntary watchman, which means that he would not be liable for any loss.
So what the rabbi ruled said, since there's only $300 and not $600, he said, then it must not be your wallet. So
okay.
So whoever found the wallet, it's yours.
Okay. Yep. Okay. I remember reading that now. Yep. Okay. But again, okay, so but I mean, yeah, it's a joke, but still the person who turned over the wallet to the rabbi was actually acting correctly.
Yeah, no,
because he was turning it over to somebody who knew what the Torah's laws were and would handle it the way the Torah tells us to do it.
That's why it's wrong to hand it over to the police, because they don't follow that rule.
Right.
Sorry, Donald. Okay, so thus, if you pick up the school bag, you may not be allowed to put it back on the park bench because you became the watchman for the object. And not only is it is prohibited, but you even will be liable if anyone else takes it.
Because you picked it up.
Yeah. Therefore, if you are able to look through the bag without picking it or its contents up to the height of 25 centimeters, about a foot, that would be ideal, because one doesn't become a shomer until the performance of the act would enable him to acquire the object.
Right.
If he wanted to buy it and it was for sale, since one who wishes to acquire a school bag must pick it up, therefore, if you don't pick up, you won't become a shomer. So, the Piskei Chosen footnotes extends to the leniency by ruling that if one picks up a lost object with a specific intention to become a shomer only if he is able to return it to its rightful owner. This conditional intention is effective, and if he cannot determine who the owner is, he is not responsible for the lost object, and he may return it to wherever he found it. Thus, ideally, in your situation, since you can have conditional intention, and if you look through it, and you can determine the identity of the owner, take it and call her up, and if not, just leave it where it is.
Okay, now, but that goes back to the whole thing of not actually taking possession of it. True? I mean, regardless of what your intention is, to become a shomer or not become a shomer, still you want to follow the rule that not to pick it up more than a foot. I mean, basically, it's a bag. You can basically do that fairly easy. and make that determination, because then if there's nothing in there, then you can legally leave it set there.
Yeah, but I can guarantee you the Gemara disagrees. Can you raise it?
Can you raise it?
The page. However,
Okay.
the ruling of the chosen is controversial, since the Gemara states that the Torah imposed the status of a shomer on anyone who finds a lost object. And Rashi explains that this is derived from the pasuk that states that one who finds a lost object must keep it in his house until the rightful owner claims it. But then you already became the shomer.
Yeah, I mean that's basically
Yeah.
Torah law, right?
Yeah. Rav Chaim Brisker understood that the act of picking up a lost object imposes on the finder the status of a watchman, even if he has no desire to assume his status, or even if the act he performed would normally not impose on a watchman the legal responsibility of a shomer. So he says, once you pick it up, you're a shomer no matter what.
Right. Well, yeah. Going strictly by the Torah law, yeah. It wouldn't matter. Oh, Rabbi Moshe Steinerman has joined us. Good to have you.
Oh. So similarly, the Chazon Ish proves that even if one picks up a lost object with specific intention to return it to where he found it, nevertheless, he has the status of a shomer and will be liable in case of something happens. So what they're saying, basically, you have no choice. Once you've picked that up or touched that lost object, you are considered a shomer.
Yeah.
Therefore, if after carefully examining the contents, you can you move the page?
You're right here.
Therefore, if after carefully examining the contents of, okay. Oh, however, it seems that the Rav Chaim and the Chazon Ish agreed that in this specific case, that you would be allowed to return the objects to the park bench if you cannot discover any phone number or whatever else there is. The reason is because the Torah requirements to watch over a lost object is confined to one who is enjoined to return the object to its rightful owner. However, since the poskim ruled that in the case you cannot identify the true owner, the Torah wants you to leave it. Therefore, the Torah never imposed upon you the status of a shomer. Therefore, if after carefully examining the contents, where am I?
Right here.
You cannot determine the true owner, you may return it to the bench. But you've already picked it up. You already had it in your hand, so you are a shomer. So there is a contradiction.
Well, see, that's why I like we're back here on the previous page where it talked about as long as you don't pick it up and you don't actually take possession of it like you would if you were purchasing an object. You know, you have to actually take possession of it, and just like everything else, everything comes down to a measurement, right? So if you can pick it up and examine it without picking up more than 25 centimeters, then you don't find anything that's unique about it, you can leave it, right?
Uh-huh.
So I said that, and that kind of makes sense to me.
Okay, now you can continue. But you see, but what I read you, it contradicts it. It says
Yeah.
that according to Jewish law, when one happens to stumble across a lost property, okay,
Uh-huh.
it doesn't say that you picked it up. One must intervene to retrieve it. According to common law, one need not to do it.
Right.
And secondly, Jewish law imposes ethical duties as part of its legal mandate, a practice that common law does not follow.
Okay, so let's
So,
let's ask this question. How, Torah-wise, do you make a determination whether something is lost or if it was just set there? So
but this is why,
if I'm walking down the public thoroughfare and I find a sealed amphor with whatever wine or perfume in it, and it happens to be sitting in the public thoroughfare. How do I make a determination that it's lost, or that somebody just set it there and knows that they actually set it there and they're coming back for it?
but I just read to you that Jewish law demands it.
It
If
does,
you have to stumble across
only
lost property.
only on a lost object.
Yes.
You
How do
first
you-
have to
how do
make a
you
determination
there's
that it's
nobody
lost.
around. If you look around and you can sit there for an hour, there's nobody around. Nobody comes to pick it up. You should be able to decide that this somebody lost it or somebody forgot it.
True. If okay, so if you have the time to sit there and wait an hour to see if somebody comes and claims it. I'm trying to think of a scenario. Okay. And the only thing I can come up with, and okay, so we were talking about tefillin earlier tonight. Okay. So I have my tefillin. I'm coming down I'm going home from davening, and I have my tefillin and I have my talit, and I'm coming home and I'm coming down the public thoroughfare, and all of a sudden, okay, excuse me for being crass, I have to use the facilities, the restroom. Now I can't take my tefillin and my talit into a restroom.
Correct.
Okay, so I take my tefillin, I might take my talit, and I set it in the public thoroughfare. Let's say on a protrusion in the wall, because we talked about protrusions the other day or the other week. And so that it will be there, and I won't have to take it into the restroom. Well, I go into the restroom, and depending on what my needs are, it may be a minute, or it may be a while.
So if I pass by,
And if you pass by,
I would ask you first, how much are the tefillin worth? If they're expensive tefillin, I would just take them and walk away. I'm kidding.
Okay, so but you can see my point. My point is that they're not lost, so your obligation only extends to an item that is actually lost, but you have to be able to find a way to determine whether it was lost or not.
Well, if it's near a bathroom, you could maybe, hopefully assume that there's somebody in there that left them, might be coming out. You can sit there for 10, 20 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah.
And if nobody comes out, you can assume that somebody forgot him. So there has to be.
Or you just walk into walk in and go, hey, who left their tefillin and talit sitting out here?
Yeah, but you see, there has to be a limit to time and space to when you decide whether this item is just somebody forgot
Or it
or
was just
somebody is just going to come put it in the
yeah,
next few minutes.
it was just set there because I mean we did have this we talked about this, what was it, last week, about the animal
Yep.
who was laid down on the grain and started to eat it, and that the owner had to pay for the benefit that the animal derived from it. But what they were talking about is that this grain was in the public thoroughfare.
Hmm.
Okay, so again, this is setting stuff in a public thoroughfare is not uncommon. Okay, at least back in the day, because people had their little stores and little booths and stuff like that in the public thoroughfare. And
Yep.
there was actually, I think last week too, we talked about the person who was unloading his wares and had them set in the public thoroughfare while he was putting them into his shop. It was either we were talking about it or else I was reading it in one of these other case laws.
What does our guest rabbi say?
He's not saying much. I was kind of hoping he was going to jump in on this. Okay, so if let's see, down says if I don't touch, I'm not responsible for it. If I call the cops and they take it, it is not my responsibility. Not according to Torah law. The solution contradicts our current political leader because it requires us to think. Horses used to be left in the streets of a city. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So other animals too, beasts of burden, oxes and donkeys and stuff like that. It was fairly common that they would be sitting in the street, but were they lost? so, I mean, what? Yeah, again, that. Well, let's go on. Let's go on and see what they have to say and see what their conclusion is, and then we can kind of dig into this a little further.
Okay, so
We're up
so
here.
we note further that in the case there are no identifying marks at all, then there is an additional reason why you may return the school bag to the park bench, as we said above. This is probably not true in your case. The reason is because the majority opinion is that the Torah never commanded us to return lost objects without identifying features, and contemporary poskim rule that one may act in according with the lenient opinion when there is no identifying features, which again is probably not the case in your situation. But in conclusion, you should open the school bag and search for anything that will enable you to contact the owner. If you are successful in your search, take the school bag and contact the owner. If you can't find anything you should leave the school bag where it was. Ideally, you should make this examination without picking up the school bag or its contents significantly. But even if it was necessary to raise it, you should return it to the park bench if you are unsuccessful in determining the owner unless the contacts were valuable. How would you know? Well, if you're not going to go inside of it and look what it is, how would you say that they're valuable or not valuable?
Right. Well, what does the Torah actually say about lost objects? It says if you come across an animal, you have to take care of the animal until the owner comes for it. Correct?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you find somebody's robe, their coat, or something like that, you have to take it in and you have to watch over it until the person comes to claim it.
So,
Okay. But these are
this
things that have definite identifying marks.
okay.
An owner knows his coat. The owner of an animal knows his animal.
But then why? It just says, it says according to Jewish law, when one happens to stumble across lost property, say lost property, let's say if you decide that it is lost property, you must intervene and retrieve it.
Yes.
And
Lost
also Jewish law
property.
imposes you an ethical duty as part of its legal mandate and practice, which common law does not follow. So
Right.
you stumbled across it. You did not touch it. You did not open it. Why does it say that you must retrieve it?
Why does the Torah say that?
Yes.
Well, again, I'm going to go back to the point that is it lost? You have to make a determination if it's lost first. So if you make a determination that it's not lost, you personally make a determination that it's not lost. It's just sitting there.
Then you leave it there.
And yeah, you just leave it there because you say, oh, well, the owner will be back for it. Okay? So it's, in your mind, it's not lost property. You're not responsible for it. Are you still, by Torah law, responsible for it? That's some catch, that catch-22.
It is, but to me, according to what the Torah says, you are responsible.
Okay. So
In
this case, what would you have done?
If you determine that the object is lost, or somebody forgot it and it's lost, then you must retrieve the object. If you've decided that it's not lost, it's I don't know how you're going to decide that it's not lost, because it's kind of hard decision, because it is only your decision. Is your decision right?
Well, let's look at this in a practical sense of view. Okay, so in this case that we're talking about here, this happened in the evening. Okay, when there's not a lot of people in the park. I'm making an assumption based on what they're saying here. Okay, let's say it was more earlier in the day. Say it was about the time that children are getting out of school and stuff like that, and they would be walking home and stuff like that. So if I came across it at that point of the day, let's say it's like 3 o'clock, between 3 and 4 o'clock, and I come in and I see a bag sitting on the bench.
Somebody forgot it and you leave it there.
Right. I'm going to assume that it's not lost because that's a typical time when kids are out and typically set things down to go do things.
But if it's at night,
yeah.
by since school is finished and the bag is still there, you are responsible to pick up the bag. The bag is lost.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The bag is lost. So in this case, what would you have done?
So you have to decide. There's a few things you have to decide. Like I said, time and space. Time, when did it happen? And like you said, if it was just after school went out, the kid probably sat down and did something or was doing something, and the bag was heavy and just put it down on the bench, and they were busy talking, and then she just walked away. She just forgot it there.
Mm-hmm.
Then you should leave it where it was because she'll realize that she forgot her bag and she would come back and get it.
Yeah.
But if it was late at night,
as soon as she got home and her mother said, "Where's your bag?" Oh my goodness, I left it.
but if it's late at night, it's 3 or 4 hours after school is finished. I would, my decision would be that somebody lost it or forgot it. So that is a lost object.
Okay, so now you've made a determination that it's a lost object. Okay?
Yep.
Now, what do you do with it?
What would I do in that case?
What do you do with it now? You've taken responsibility for it. What do you do? You want the responsibility? You got the responsibility. What are you going to do with it now?
You examine the contents.
Okay.
If there's no identifying names or items or anything that you can identify whose it is, then you leave it there.
Ah, but you just said Torah said that you have to take it.
During the day or if it's at night and you found the bag and there's no identifying things, you become the shomer.
Okay.
Because it's a lost object, you must retrieve it according to Jewish law.
Okay. Well, let's hang on there. Let's hang on there. We're at our halfway point, so let's take our break. I'm going to go ahead and turn your volume down here.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, I'm going to continue harassing Ancel about this to see exactly what he would do, and then we'll think about what I would do, and we will go from there, and we'll just see what we come up with. So, everybody, stay tuned. We'll be back in 6.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
And we are back. Let me get Ancel's picture back up there, and let's bring Rabbi Ancel back in. Okay, so we're back on. Okay.
Any comments?
Well, let's see what we got here.
Where's the rabbi?
Richard said, turn it into the city workers who take care of the park. We've already discussed that. We've already made a determination according to Torah law that you cannot do because they wouldn't handle it according to Torah law. Just the same as the police.
As the police.
Yeah. Marshall says, does the Torah differentiate between late afternoon and night in this scenario?
Exactly what we were talking about. Now listen, here are two scenarios so we can all hear this. There's a school, there's a park. Children go through the park, going home in the afternoon after school, 2, 3 o'clock and after school. School is finished. Two girls sit down. They got a few minutes to talk. You know how it is. They talk on the phone. They discuss. They like to speak. They love to talk to each other. Bags are full of books. It's heavy. So one of them or both of them, they take let's say one of them takes her bag off and leaves it on the bench. Being busy talkers like women are, excuse the word.
Oh, we're going to get letters on that one.
I know. I'm kidding.
We don't have to be politically correct.
No, I'm kidding. She forgets her bag. So you come 2 or 3 minutes later and you walk by the bench. Look at the bench, look at the bag, and say, school just finished. The girls were busy talking and whatever. She forgot it. She'll probably notice in the next 5, 10 minutes that she forgot the bag. She'll be back, leave the bag there. Now, if the same scenario is and it's 6, 7 o'clock at night and you walk by, you know school is over. You know somebody forgot it and lost it. You must retrieve that bag. First of all, if there is anything in that bag that can identify that person, and not the best people hang around the parks at night, that puts that child in danger because they find out where she lives, and not just the child. They put in danger the family. We're talking about nowadays.
Yeah.
Not, like I said, not the best humans hang around the park at that day. So your responsibility is to retrieve it. So we continue. So we have some comments now.
Okay, so
there are different scenarios.
yeah, okay, so now that you've retrieved it, you made a determination. Well, it's late. This child just simply forgot it. Regardless of whether there's any identification in it or not, I'm going to take it.
Yes.
I'm going to take it and take charge of it. Okay, so now that you've taken charge of it, what are you responsible to do from this point?
You become shomer of that item.
Right.
So now you have being a shomer of the item, now you have the right to open it and to see what's in it.
Uh-huh.
Maybe inside there is some information. A book with a name on it, a school book. There could be a phone. There could be anything. There could be an envelope that has an address. You try to get in touch with that person.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Okay. If that bag, let's say the park, was near that school, would I return the bag to the school to the principal? You cannot, because the principal doesn't follow Jewish law. What would I do? If there's no identification, I would return the bag to the bench in the daytime.
Ah, okay. Okay.
That's my opinion. I may be right, I may be wrong. I'm not professing.
Well, I mean, would you put up a notice? I mean, the Gemara says that we have to put up a notice, right?
You can put up a notice.
Okay.
You can put a notice. I would put up a notice in school, but I would not leave the bag.
That's what I was trying to get
the bag
to.
as a shomer.
Yeah. You'll put up a notice, but where would you put the notice up at? I mean, if you put it up in your apartment building, then the chances are that
I would put it up in the school.
Yeah.
Because if it's close to a school, it's probably one of the students from that school.
That's true.
Would I put her up in my building? That's a big guess. Is that person living in my building?
Oh, yeah.
No. Could I put a posting up at the police station? Yeah, I could put a posting into a police station if anybody, has lost a bag. You can find me at so and so and so and so.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I would put up a notice in school, but I would not let go of that bag unless that person or a particular person came to me and said, Ancel, I lost the bag. And in the bag, there was this.
Mm-hmm.
I am the owner of the bag. Then you can have the bag. If you can identify the contents of the bag, it must be your bag.
Yeah. My notebook was in it. It's got Hello Kitty on it. I drew a mustache on Hello Kitty. Yeah. Pretty much, it's identifiable.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. if nobody comes to claim it, what then? How long are you responsible to hold on to something like that and guard it if nobody comes to claim it?
I don't know.
Oh. Neither do I, to tell you the truth. Now, we've talked about the person who brought the tefillin to have it fixed, and the man fixes the tefillin, and the guy never comes back to collect the tefillin, and he wants to be able to loan it out and stuff like that. And basically, that's what he does. He can loan it out. We went through all that thing, but tefillin are a lot different than finding somebody's school bag. I mean, the school bag is only going to be useful for a certain period of time. So, are you responsible to hang on to that thing forever and a day if nobody comes to claim it? Or
well, if you let's say if you examine the bag and you find school books, and you can ask around, is this third grader, fourth grader, fifth grader? And a week goes by, a month goes by, and nobody claims it. I would go to the principal and say, listen, I found this a month ago. There's no identifying thing. I found out by asking. This is somebody who's in the third or fourth grade. There's nothing of value in it. It's just books. I would give it. Then I would give it up to the principal.
Well, I would say, in my opinion, at the point that it no longer serves a purpose, then you wouldn't be obligated to hang on to it anymore. So, in this case, I have found the backpack at the beginning of the school year, and I put up notices. I did everything I'm supposed to do, notified the school that I have this. There's no real identifying stuff in there except books. Okay, so the books, school books, tend to belong to the school. Okay, they're usually, until you get into the higher grades, you're usually not buying your own books. They're usually given to you by the school. So if this is a younger person, there's books in there. I would say that at the end of the school year, it no longer serves any purpose. It has no value. So
Correct.
It's no longer a lost item because it has no value.
Yeah.
And
unless you get lucky and you find a book inside there that's from the library and has a library card.
Well, yeah, but like I said, what I do at the end of the school year, if nobody came to claim that, I would take the books. I would take the books and I would give them back to the school, and basically the rest of it I would just basically destroy it because it has no value at that point.
I'll go along with that.
I mean, that's my opinion. I mean, it just seems to make sense that if you hang on to something until it's like if I find a bottle of wine. And let's say it's
that's another discussion.
it's not mavushal, right? It doesn't have a long shelf life, correct?
Yep. Correct.
Okay, so I find this bottle of wine and I put up notices. I let people know that okay, I found a bottle of wine and it's non-mavushal, and I've got it. And at a certain point of time, it's no longer wine, it's vinegar. Okay, so it no longer has any value as wine anymore. So at that point, I would think that I would be free to do whatever I want with it, dispose of it, use it to clean my windows. I don't know, whatever.
You can use it as vinegar.
As vinegar, yeah. But it no longer serves its purpose for what it was intended to be.
Correct.
Donald says school books always have value. Yeah, they do, and I'm saying that my point is that if the books belong to the school, I would return the books to the school because I know the school actually owns the books. But at the end of the school year, if the books belong, were purchased by the person who owned the bag, which usually only typically happens in the higher grades, they no longer have value to that person because the school year is over. Their use for the book is over. So, okay. So this has really been a fascinating discussion, because you would think that this would be fairly simple and fairly straightforward, and we're finding out it's neither simple nor straightforward.
No, and we only spoke about a couple of scenarios.
Yes.
Because you can go into more deeper discussions, because we're just talking about children coming home from school who's left a bag on a bench. You were talking about filling this left outside the bathroom. What about you're in the plaza, and what happens? You're in the plaza and you look down on the floor and you see a diamond ring.
Ah.
What do you do? Now you're talking about something that's valuable.
Yeah, and it's always going to have value.
Yeah, so we can discuss these things. Not just.
Oh yeah,
one.
ad infinitum.
We can get into these and into more detail. But there are so many scenarios, because, like I said, you can find a $100,000 diamond ring. What do you do?
Yeah,
Usually
I have another.
Those types of rings, though that expensive, would have something, like they do now with the laser inscription.
Oh yeah, they have.
But if it doesn't, what do you do?
Well, yeah, typically if it was a diamond from, let's say, maybe in the 70s, the 60s, or even earlier, they wouldn't have that diamond etching.
There's no Salamon on them. There's no sign.
Right.
So
Well, I've got another case where a person is riding on the bus and forgets his finds a tefillin and talit on the bus.
Yeah.
That's pretty much like a diamond. It's got value. It's got a tremendous amount of value to the owner, and regardless, it still has a value, and it's going to retain its value.
This is why I said, if the people in the room, they want to continue next week or whatever to this type of discussions, like I said, you can go into some real scenarios where you find objects of monetary value. Yeah. You find objects that a pair of tefillin and a talit that to a person that has no monetary value, but it's his tefillin. This is what he prays every morning. That has value in his heart and in his mind. So.
Well, yeah, that brings up another interesting question. Is that okay? If I find something that, let's say, essentially it has no intrinsic value in and of itself, but to the person who lost it, it's priceless.
Right.
I find a photo album.
Yeah, and tefillin and talits don't, unless there's a name inside the talit bag, there is no identifying marks.
Yeah.
What do you do? So
basically, the only thing you can do is you can tell whether it's Rashi or Rabbeinu Tam, or whether it's Ashkenazic or Sephardic, and that's about it. And you can tell whether they're right or left-handed.
That doesn't help you finding the person.
No, it doesn't.
So again, you could put up a sign in the synagogue. If it's close to a synagogue, then maybe that guy was coming home from a synagogue. Like I said, you can make up so many scenarios.
And again, that was that's another thing. What if the guy was praying at the hotel? I mean, he could have come from any place. You know?
From any, exactly.
Yeah, he could have come from America, and just been at the Kotel davening, So, yeah, I mean, there is a tremendous amount of scenarios that you can come across, and then again, I mean, how long do you have to hang on to it? You designate a whole separate room in your house just for stuff that you come across and find, People come in later on and think you're a hoarder, and you say, "No, I'm not a hoarder. I'm just keeping this stuff
Do you
that
know
I
how
found."
many pair of you have no idea? Do you know how many pair of tefillin I gave away? My lifetime?
I have no idea.
I would say maybe 1,000 pairs, 1,500 pairs. But it's different. Sometimes when we used to do it, the heart of the family would bring the talus and the tefillin of the deceased. And sometimes I would see, well, the talus I couldn't give away because the deceased gets wrapped into the talus.
Right.
But then if I saw that the tefillin were fairly new and good, I would ask the family, I say, may I donate these to a synagogue? There's some people who cannot afford to buy a set of tefillin. And a lot of times they said, do it, because it would be she would talk about, let's say, the person or her husband, and she should say he would consider a mitzvah.
Oh yeah.
For you to do that. And I have given, like I said, thousands of them away.
It is
if they were old,
it is a mitzvah to allow somebody to use your tefillin.
Yeah.
And
if they were old in this, the person would get buried in the talus and the throne. But yeah.
If you go to most Orthodox synagogues, some conservative, they always have extra tefillin.
Oh, you'll see, especially, like I said, I used to daven at Chabad because I had no choice on Shabbos. But there was always 10, 20 pairs hanging around on the shelves. And people used to walk in and just grab a bag and put on the tefillin and daven. Wrap them back up, put them on the bag, and put it back on the shelf.
Yeah.
So, like I said, something that has holy value, like tefillin. Yeah, I would go to a synagogue. But like I said, the scenario if you found a $20,000, $30,000, or $100,000 diamond ring, that's another scenario. There's so many things like you can set up that. We could discuss it for a couple of weeks, which is nice. Listen, we all learn from this. It's because Jewish law is totally different than common law, or that's what I said from the beginning.
That's true, and the reason that the similarities are there because most of let's see, Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson went to Hebrew college. Not a lot of people know that. He was educated in a yeshiva. He wasn't Jewish, but he was educated in a yeshiva. Yeah. So a lot of these things that these common laws and the early laws and stuff like that are based on, they're similar to Jewish law, and there's a reason for it because they were actually based on Jewish law.
Here's another scenario. A Jew finds an object. It belongs to a Gentile, and he happens to know the Gentile. Is he required to return the object to the Gentile? That's another subject to discuss.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a long one, because Karo, Auerbach, and Rambam really get into that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
there's like I said, you can pick up and you can set up scenarios, but this is good for the people in the room because they've never gone through this because nobody's taught them. But it's you can get a simple question and come up with just a conclusion, but not a real opinion.
Right, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, we even saw that in tonight's, that we have disagreements between the poskim, and they're showing them about, what are you supposed to do? What are you obligated to do? You know, one says this, another says this. One says be lenient, the other one says be strict, and
As
that's
a
one of
general
that's
rule,
one of the
they
great
say-
things about the Talmud or the Gemara is that basically it never comes to a final decision.
No.
It says, well,
Even-
you know, in this case, we'll go with this, and when Mashiach comes, he'll straighten it out. But you know, the great thing about it is it leaves it open for further study. And
you know what they tell they tell Yidden to do if you don't know. Go ahead and ask the rabbi. It doesn't necessarily mean the rabbi has an answer.
yeah. Yeah, well, you know, on this hand it's this, on this hand it's that, but then again, over here you have this and that, and I'm sorry I asked. Oh, but you know, it's great that we don't actually. There are very few things that we actually have a final decision on, and most of the things that we have a final decision on are basically because we've compromised. We've come to an agreement between the parties, such as Hillel and Shammai, to say, okay, well, you're saying it's this way. This is we're saying it's this way. Let's compromise, and we'll go this way until Mashiach comes and tells us exactly what it is.
That's why Jewish law tends towards leniency, not to harshness. And this is why they say when Mashiach comes, we'll find out the truth or the real answer. So a lot of these, that's why they say in conclusion, not in an opinion, because a lot of the poskim lean towards, even Caro and Auerbach and Feinstein, they lean towards, you know, a more lenient conclusion.
Yeah.
Auerbach is the only one I can actually say that when he said it was an opinion. It's the only one. Caro wrote the Shulchan Aruch, and Feinstein was a smart and very, very holy person. But Auerbach, when he said something, when he wrote something, it was an opinion. That I will not back out.
That's true. Many people will follow him and say, you know, well, Auerbach says this, and that's the way we're going to go because, you know, none of us are smart enough to be able to dispute him.
Auerbach, since I became a rabbi, I've followed him because he stands for, and his opinion is right. Auerbach was not just a rabbi. Auerbach was not just a poskim. He was a doctor. Yeah. He was a lawyer. He was a combination of so many people, because if you read some of his opinions, you would say that could only have come out from the mouth of a lawyer, or from the mouth of a doctor, regarding whatever.
And you know, the thing that's really I find really interesting about it is that you know, Auerbach, when he was alive, you never would have expected that. I mean, he lived very simply. You know?
Even Yosef Ovadia, I mean, his opinions. I mean, let's not kid each other. I mean, he wrote some 40-odd books. I mean...
Well, he always tended toward leniency.
He did.
Yep.
And I have to give him credit because he analyzed it in so much depth that he said he was lenient. He tended towards leniency. He was not a harsh person in his decision, because when you become harsh in your decision as a judge, you close yourself in. You're in it's like tunnel vision. You know, you can't see the right side or the left side or the upside and the downside. It's just a tunnel vision, and that's where.
Well, it's kind of like Les Miserables.
Yeah,
the law is the law.
Yeah, people get mixed up and they say, I don't understand. And when a rabbi explains and he says, you know what, this is the ruling, but it's a lenient ruling, and it's it makes that person understand that, hey, you know what, it's not a bad law. It's got some sense into it,
Yeah.
but it's lenient. It's not harsh. It's not closing me in. It's not chasing me away. And this is a lot of the opinions. A lot of the of Jews. They say, well, the Torah law and this is so tough. It chased me away. But the unfortunate part is those people that ran away never got into Torah law. They never studied it. So,
Well, the
how
other
can
thing
you say
too is
that?
that the judge that judges too harshly
Yeah.
will be judged by the same standard that he set when he goes to the heavenly Beit Din.
Yep.
So be careful how you judge, because how you judge will determine how you're going to be judged.
But you judge according to the law.
Yeah.
And what I like about Jewish law, it is not a law of jails. It would put you in jail. It has so much sense, but it's lenient. It allows you to live. It allows you to breathe. And most importantly, it allows you to ask questions. It's the only religion
Yeah.
that allows, is
Well,
there a God?
it almost demands you do it.
Yeah, is there a God or this? Can you imagine a Catholic saying that? If there's a God, you'd get excommunicated.
Yeah.
So this is the nice part about Jewish law, that it is, you're allowed to ask questions because you're a human and you don't have all the answers, nor do I, nor do all the rabbis. They don't have the answers. But like I said, the whole idea of being a rabbi is not that you are going to know everything about Jewish law, because you're not.
Yeah.
Not in a life, not in one lifetime, and not in 10 lifetimes. But what it teaches you as a rabbi, is to know where to go and look for, let's say, part of the answer, because you're
Yeah.
not going to get all the answers.
Yeah.
And
Direction.
most lay people don't know where to go into the Gemara. First of all, it's written in Aramaic and this, and they don't read the Hebrew part. It's where the rabbi knows. If you ask him a question, the best thing to know, if you don't know, just say, I can't give you an answer right now.
That's right.
Let me look.
Well, that was
And
that was Moshe Rabbeinu's favorite thing. Every time somebody came to him with a question, what did he say? Minyan, tomorrow. Come back tomorrow, I'll give you an answer. It's basically, okay, don't make a snap judgment. Think it over.
It is. Because once it leaves your mouth, it's said.
Right.
And if it's wrong, it's wrong.
That's right.
So say, listen, I don't know, and there's no shame in it.
No,
There
even
is
Rashi,
no
even Rashi
shame.
has that. When we read Rashi's, we've been studying the Torah in depth. There's times we come across and Rashi says, I don't know what this means. I really don't know what they're actually trying to say here. And I love that about Rashi, that he was upfront enough to say, there's things not even I get.
There's a lot of things that I think about. Like I said, I can give you right now 50 scenarios for tonight. But I'm just saying, it is nice to see that even people like Rashi and Karo and Auerbach, even Auerbach never professed that he knows everything.
No.
Never said anything. But Auerbach was Auerbach. He's my favorite.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I kind of picked up on that.
all right.
Okay, well, if you hang on.
Anybody in the room got some comments?
Yeah, let's see.
Does anybody want to continue on this next week or the week after? Or
Donald says this is a great and wonderful discussion. And let's see. Yeah, that's about. Well, there's a few comments about when you were talking about the donating the tefillin and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, actually, I have some others that might be actually connected to this that we can actually. Donald says yes. He says yes. Yes, go on. Let's go on next week with this.
Okay.
So I've got a couple other ones that are kind of similar to this.
Okay.
Maybe a little more complex, and we can go over those. We'll take a look at those. This was a really good one tonight. It's a great discussion.
Thank you kindly tonight.
Okay, well I'm gonna sign out here. I'll be back with you in a minute.
Okay.
And we'll turn him off there. The control that I have. I can just turn people off. Okay, I want to thank everybody for being here this evening. Don't forget, tomorrow night is the Torah study in depth. We will be starting Parshat Tetzaveh next tomorrow. And then Friday night, Kabbalat and Ma'ariv Shabbat service at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then Shachrit and Musaf on Shabbat at 10 a.m. Eastern. Monday at 8 p.m. is Zeta Story Corner. And Tuesday, right back here again, Tuesday for the Rabbis Discuss. So until the next time, my friends, we will simply say, Laila Tov.